Hey there. So, welcome to Mindful Strength Yoga. This is a little class I'm developing and hoping to share with you. And for those of you that are feeling really want to build strength and connect to this strong body, even when we have parts that are sore or painful, or we're going through some things with different joints. It's all keeping ourselves moving in a way that is exploratory and curious and compassionate. This is coming off of my last past year of having frozen shoulder and recovery from that. Really has been a journey of, how do we continue to engage mindfully, compassionately, and lovingly with these bodies? And I hope you'll find these exploratory practices really helpful to keep you coming back to your body and back to your self-care, and even leading into, more subtle connections to yourself, whether it's through breathing practice or meditation. So, a couple principles here to I'll refer to throughout the practice. One, it comes from somatics, and it's the exploration with titration and our movement. So it's a kind of moving into something and out of something, in and out, back and forth, exploring the sensations that arise. And another is fluid flowing around the joints. So exploring how synovial fluid, the fluid body that helps us to, keep the joints healthy and agile. So exploring more mobility in our joints. Also hugging the muscles to the bones. So sometimes it's really isometric, just kind of squeezing the muscles, hugging like the quadriceps above the kneecaps and the calf muscles to the shin bones, and just those hugs to kind of feel that really strong connection to this strength in a mindful way. And then also just resisting gravity. So, can you slowly, mindfully, and carefully attune to gravity and your pull or your resistance against gravity? And instead of doing rapid repetitions, it's more of a slow sinking into feeling the earth pull you down and lifting against the earth's pull. So I'm really feeling that earth element in our body, that stable force of our bones. So, and also I have Carol in the background here with me, so she'll be demonstrating, or at least, showing what's going on as well when I stop to talk. And I hope you find, each of these little body explorations really helpful to help you feel you're strong. And a little quote that I found from, actually from Andrea Gibson, the poet. Strength is choosing to show up to something hard, knowing others won't see the massive effort it took to get there. Strength is the courage to rest when your body demands it. So, always mindfully taking rest when you need to and listening to your body. So, that is mindful strength. So, we're going to start by coming onto our back, and please find a place that is most restful to you, and for a bit of body awareness and breath awareness. So in the supine position, you're taking a moment to even support your head If you find your neck needs support, use a light pillow or a thin rolled blanket or flat folded blanket under your head. And what's comfortable, either bent knees or straight legs, and letting your whole body be supported by the ground. And so I'm going to come into that posture as well, turning this down a little bit. So I invite you to begin your practice here in this supine posture, letting the earth rise up to meet your back, either your legs bent or straight. And just come into that intention of curiosity and compassion. Just being curious and noticing, can you feel the sense that your facial muscles relax and release? Can you feel your jaw soften? And a little space behind your neck. So we want to be sensitive to the neck and notice there should be some space. So the chin is neither flattened down towards the chest or tilted back, but level with the floor and a little space for your neck. Just noticing your shoulder blades and if they're relaxed against the floor, if they're pulling away or kind of winging out. How the backs of the arms are resting on the ground. Do they feel resistant or do they feel relaxed? And the lower back ribs. Are the lower back ribs in contact with the floor, or at least down to the lower parts of your rib cage in the back? And then a little space behind the lumbar spine. Can you have the sense that there's a small space where the lumbar curve is? And then checking in with the pelvis and just noticing. I'm going to really notice, the pelvis a lot, because this is an important juncture between our spine and our pelvic girdle. So the hip bones, these the bones that are most prominent at your hip points, the ASIS they're called, are level with the pubic bone. So the pelvis is neither tilting back or tilting forward, but there's a level plane from the hip bones and to the pubic bone. So the knees might need to be bent here, especially at the beginning of class, in order to do that. Some might be able to straighten the legs and do that. And then just finding what that feels like for a moment. So we're going to support our movement around the primary and secondary curves of the spine so we have good posture. And just taking a breath and noticing the whole body, then supported by the ground. And releasing any further tension. So we want to start with the muscles release. So we're going to move through mobility, stability, and lengthening. And beginning to notice your natural breath. And see how you're breathing at this moment, just in curiosity. Right? The inhale through the nose and the exhale through the nose. We won't pay a lot of attention to breathing throughout the class, but just to notice, can you stay with nasal breathing? So, which is the healthiest way for us to breathe. So, continuing to follow the in breath through the nose and out through the nose. And beginning to become a little more mindful of just breathing nasally, extending the exhale slightly. And as you invoke this quality of curiosity, we're going to start with some movements to be aware of our knees, our ankles, and our hips. So from straight legs or bent, just starting to cycle the right leg. So we're going to try to keep that posture stable, the level pelvis. So just extending the leg as the knee comes in and the leg stretches up. And then lowering the leg straight, leg down, keeping a balanced pelvis. And that's our slow exploration, bringing the leg in, stretching the leg up, lowering the leg slowly as you support through the pelvic girdle. And just continuing that cycle. You might flex the toes and explore that movement with a flexed ankle. And drawing the toes back towards the shin. And you could continue to cycle and a few times that way, and you might even try it with a pointed foot as well, and just see how that changes. Good, mobilizing the joints, working with our mobility and warming ankles, knees, and hips, strengthening the posture around our movement. And after you feel like you've done that for a little bit on the right, you might pause and rest for a moment. Just kind of reassess the pelvis and the primary curves in your back, the lumbar curve. Arms could be out to the sides if they're not already. And begin your cycling on the other side and just, see, is this side different today? Is it tighter in the hamstring or the calf? Is the motion smooth or rough? Does it feel like you can lower that leg without tipping the pelvis, or does the side of the abdominal wall feel a little less strong? And you could slow way down enough that you titrate at any point, which means you might take it down a little bit and then come back up a little bit, take it a little further down, and bring it back up again, and just see, can you keep that stable pelvis? And noticing what you notice about that joint connection. You might pause when you're ready on that side and relax. And take a breath. And I'm even going to offer you could reverse those cycles. So this time on the right, stretching the legs straight out first to a hover, lifting the legs straight up, and then bending the knee and pushing the heel out. It's a little different, like you're cycling backwards. So any spots of tightness or tension, you could slow into it, offer that titration. I want to even offer that you could stretch the legs straight, flex the toes, hold at a hover, and just see if you can kind of hug the muscles into the bone. It's almost like you're drawing the femur bone into the socket, and the quadricep is really active and engaged. And releasing when ready. Taking a breath. Maybe try that reverse cycling on the other side. Right, the leg stretches out first, heel leads, and then the lift and the bend. Are you breathing? Not holding the breath. Maybe that hover, the hug of the muscles to the bone, if you feel like it, right? This is your class, so these explorations are just offerings. Muscle hug. And then placing that foot back on the mat, pausing. And whatever you need here. So a rock of the knees, or even a straightening of the legs, or a full body stretch, right? Make it what you need. Maybe a nice length through the spine. And as you exhale, you might bring the knees into the chest and the arms back out to the sides. This next exploration is for the whole TVA, or the transverse abdominis, the abdominal wall, but we're going to take the pelvis and we'll first wrap one ankle over the other, and then see if we can just rock in a circle around the pelvis. But you know, you have to use different parts of your abdominal wall to hold your legs up. So rocking to the right hip, dropping the feet so we're onto the tailbone, rocking to the left hip, bringing the knees back up into the chest. Good. So just in those slow circles, are there any places where it's harder to hold the legs to a hover? And these could be really small if you find your shoulders are pulling up from the ground and it's taking all your arm strength. See if you can keep it with just using abdominal wall strength. So keep it a little smaller if you need to. And you might reverse your circles and cross your feet the other way. Notice if your low back starts to pop and it's hard to hold that pelvic stability, and bring it a little bit smaller. And when you're ready, placing your feet back on the ground, maybe constructive rest. You could rock your knees in towards each other as an option there. So maintaining that attitude of curiosity. We'll drop into some windshield wipers. You might separate your feet towards the edges of the mat and crossing maybe left ankle over right knee. That's one option, or you can cross all the way. So this gets a little more in the outer hip. We're just going to rock the knees over to the right, left leg's on top, and then come back to center. And we're going to continue that on that side, right? Little rocks, warming up that outer hip, breathing into center, arms stabilizing the torso. All right, we're keeping our back ribs against the floor. Good. So you might take one or two more of those. If you have a sensitive sacrum, you might not want to be crossing the legs. I should have said that first. And then come to neutral again, and you could just, with the legs, maybe knees rocked in to constructive rest. And pause for a moment. And possibly crossing right ankle over left knee or sliding the legs all the way across. And trying that twist to the other side. So dropping, we're just kind of moving in and out. And this could be like a titration again, too. So maybe go a little bit more, and a little bit more as you drop the knees. And then bring it all the way back up so you're curious about this right hip. So we're getting that mobility around the joints. And when you're ready, unwinding, doing what you need here. Maybe it's a full body stretch. And a few wrist circles, a few ankle circles. And get all our joints warm and fluid. So any other places for ankles or wrists that you want to take some circles, you could do that. Maybe even roll through the finger joints. Just feeling that mobility, fluidity, circling. And when you're ready, we're going to roll over and coming, actually, we're going to stay on our side. So we're going to need a pillow, so a folded pillow. So for shoulders, so our last thing laying down for mobility. So here, again, some somatic movements. We're going to come onto our side. So the knees are at about a 90-degree angle, stacked one on top of the other. Head supported by a folded blanket, a pillow, and that bottom arm stretched straight out. Top arm right on top of it. So hands, palms together. And these are called angel wings. So here, we're going to start this slow circle. So we're going to bring the arm up next to the ear. And the head can move with it. So as you roll and open, let the head kind of follow the arm circle back. And here, circling down and back, hands together. So that's our movement. I'm going to invite you to take that in a slow, very mindful awareness. So if you have any shoulder stuff going on, right, you find those places to slow down and even back up and explore a little bit back and then come forward. Just noticing any sticky places, any rough or bumpy spots. So this is mobility, right? So we're taking a little bit of time to really warm the joints and find out where we have different sensations. And when you're ready to pause, you could pause and closed arms, resting for a moment. And we'll switch to the other side and see how that other shoulder is today. So turning in the other direction, stacking our hands, and beginning to circle that top arm up next to the ear, around to the back, down by our side. And this shoulder might be totally different. Right? We have this closed capsule of the shoulder joint, and that head of the arm bone, the humerus, just kind of hopefully rolls around in there and can have its places where it's a little stickier. So give it a little bit of sweet time to connect. And at some point we'll add maybe a light weight to this movement, so there's a little more resistance. We can notice even places around the heart space, the side ribs, the armpit. Where do we breathe? Do we feel the breath in those side ribs, underneath the arm, into the back ribs? And when we're ready to pause, we take the time to let the tissues settle, feel the sensations that result after. So the pause is when we do a little check-in, see. We're kind of ready here. We're going to come over into a table position. and start exploring a little more of this strength in our body. So, as you come to table, or actually, instead of table, we're actually going to come down onto the abdomen and start from here into this version of plank. So we're going to bring our forehead to our hands. And so this version of plank, we're going to do this slow somatic kind of lifting and awareness by coming onto our forearms first. So bring the elbows right under the shoulders, spreading the hands wide so we can build that foundation in our forearms. And so here you're going to start to just kind of pull the upper abdomen away from the floor. So just the solar plexus comes off the mat. And then you might start, as you press into your forearms and draw your shoulder blades down your back, start to lift the rest of the abdomen off the floor, drawing the knees towards the elbows. So I'm going to pause. You keep going so I can talk through this. So there's this kind of sense that the elbows pulling towards the knees give that stability to the core. And then you could reverse that, right? And start to lower just the abdomen, then the solar plexus, and then coming into that back to your forehead, to your hands, and pause. And we'll start, as you're ready to continue that kind of core exploration. So whenever you're ready, you can come back to those forearms and start to pull the elbows towards the knees, shoulders away from the ears as you slowly lift the upper abdomen, the lower abdomen, the thighs into that forearm plank. And there's this light drawing back of the chin, right? So we lengthen the back of the neck if possible, and just feeling a bit of our neck core engaged. And then you can reverse out of that whenever you're ready to starting to lower thighs, lower abdomen, lower upper abdomen, lower chest, and coming back to our forehead, to our hands. Right, so a lot happening here in that slow movement, but it's another place where you could start to, just really feel, just is my upper abdomen, can I kind of lift that, feel some strength around my lower ribs, start to bring my lower abdomen up. Where in my core, where in my arms or my shoulders, maybe am I feeling like less supported or feeling really strong, like really exploratory. And we'll try that out, that exploration a little bit. The last time you do some slow lifts, you might imagine that abdominal wall is hugging in, right? And you pause at the top, possibly giving a moment for spreading the fingers, palming the earth, right? Feeling the muscles pull in towards the bones, if you will. And however you want to rock back and come back into child's pose, we'll take that extension of the hips back. And pause to breathe there. And then invoking our intention of curious, curious movement. And also giving ourselves enough ease that we can explore. So we're not pushing into a way that doesn't allow exploration. So the next exploration could be done either on the mat or hands on the wall or a chair. And we're going to move between plank and down dog. So, or even table and down dog. So, so coming into your table posture and maybe just, as you come into this posture drawing, finding that um, pulling the shoulders down the back, so your shoulder blades down into your back pockets, pressing into your palms, 10 fingertips, and lifting the knees even lightly. So you could even just try that little lift and then lower. And if you want, a little push back into downward facing dog. Actually, we'll go from table to down dog. So the lowering could be in titration, the lifting also. Maybe they're just little lifts, right? We're sending our hips up, and there's a movement in our shoulder joints, right? As we come to table, maybe we have a little lift of the knees and just feel that push into our palms. You can feel that resistance to gravity. So you might take a moment to just explore gravity there a little bit. Feel how the body is kind of resisting that lift away from the floor. And you could do that through the knees lowering and lifting, the pushing into the palms and lifting. Even the spine, if you want to do, a few cats where you lift the spine as you push into your palms, you could feel how that's resisting gravity. And even that little bit of titration, like, what does gravity feel like? It's like, where is that pull? Where's that pull centered? It's, you can imagine those bones are feeling, the muscles pull on the bones, giving them strength, right? So when muscles pull on bones, they start to calcify and give that, build that strength. So continuing your exploration. And if you're, feeling a little stronger, you could take that from plank to down dog too, right? So could be that. Maybe it's not today. Can see what feels right. And then resting in child's pose when you're ready. And letting gravity take you. So feel what it feels like to let gravity just melt your body when you feel ready. It's nice to feel the difference. We feel our strength. We feel that earth element, right? And we rest. So listening to our wise self, we either continue to feel that letting go of gravity. Or we can continue. We'll come to standing and take a little exploration at the wall. So the wall or the chair, so coming to balance. So you could use your chair, you could use your hand on the wall, either way. So this one, we're going to explore our feet, right? Our feet, our knees, and our quadriceps. So just starting to lift and lower your heels. Let me get a little, oh, now I don't have my feet. So a slow press into the balls of your feet, right? So let's come to Tadasana first and just feel our tall posture. Feet about hip width apart. And just, lifting your toes. See if you can lift your toes. Notice what muscles are there, like your shins. You feel those intrinsic lower leg muscles. So feet, so important. And I've noticed myself lately just how my feet muscles are not as strong. So lifting the toes, this has to do with our knees as well. So as you lift your toes, spread your toes, press the toes down, and then almost hug the mat like you're a cat, like and the arches of your feet lift. So we're strengthening that plantar fascia. So you can do that a few times, just doing that toe lift. I'm using my hands because it kind of helps me think about my toes. So lifting my toes, spreading my toes, placing all 10 toes down, and then hugging, like pulling the toes towards my heels to give that arch lift. So really, you can try that out a few times just to see, which toes lift, which toes don't lift, which toes press down into the floor easily, and which toes don't. And then just feeling that sense. Do my arches lift a little bit? Right, a little bit of toe play there, and then with, if you like, reaching your arms up, lifting up onto the balls of your feet, right, pressing into the balls of your feet, and then lowering back down. Good. Anytime you need balance, you got the wall, the chair, continuing to lift. And I really like to feel like a slow lowering. So even lowering a third, another third, and another third, right? So we're really using the foot, the calves, the quadriceps. So I'm lifting, breathing in, lifting. Maybe a slow titration to lower. Feel each little inch if you can. Sometimes we come down quicker. And maybe it's just up and down a few times. Like, can you feel the calves, how they support each little toe strength? Good. So I'll just let you play with that a little bit. What do you notice about your feet? Good. If you like that play there, just feeling those muscles. And you want to try something coming into and then lowering into like a chair posture, sitting back a little bit. So hips are back, and then lifting and lowering, right? Try some lifts and lowers of the heels. So, right, weight is back. Slow. You could do titrated lifts and titrated lowers. Good. Notice when the toes go out of the picture and maybe they don't stay engaged. Give them a lift, a lower, and a squeeze. And then you can try it again. And continue that. You could make this a whole sequence of lifting, lowering into chair, lifting again, lowering, exploring balance. I'll let you play around with all those movements, right? Maybe you're lingering here. You might even pause with your heels lifted in chair. And coming back to mountain when you're ready. Relaxing your feet, your legs. Good. So we're going to try a little band work here. So stretchy bands, so these TheraBands, you can have light stretching, or light stretchiness or more intense. So I'm going to step wide. And so it's going to be a slow lift. We're going to take our bands and hold them actually in an upright position. You want to have you want to hold them so they're just lightly pulled, not with a little bit of tension. So yeah, so we're going to come down. Actually, maybe about a foot in from your foot. So about 12 inches in from your foot. Hold them about there. That's probably best. And then straight back, we're going to pull up, right? As we pull up, we're going to drop the shoulder blades down the back. Good. And then slowly, so we're going to hinge from the hip joints and slowly release. So you can work with how much tension you want. So a little bend in the knees. We want to keep, from straining the back, but slow lift. So you're pulling, 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 pulling. Shoulders drop away from your ears, shoulder blades down your back to your upright position. And then slowly, slowly, slowly. If you want to make it harder, you can step wider, right? You can play with your resistance and coming over. Good. You could hold a little closer to your foot if you want to make it a little harder as well. And then slowly, slowly feel that length up through your back, right? Abdominal wall is slightly toned. And then slow, slow, slow. Good. So I'm going to let you play with that a little bit. So the little bit of play is in the back body, right? It's all keeping back long and strong as you pull against gravity. Good. And you might even feel like going all the way into that forward bend and letting your back relax and release, your neck relax. You might even stay there before you try again that reverse. Slow, slow. Feel that resistance in the body, pulling away from the ground and then hinging back into it. Slow, slow, slow. And releasing. So you might try one or two more of those if you like. You could come up just a little bit, and then what happens if you go back down an inch and then come back up a little bit or all the way? Maybe it's even like inch by inch releasing down. Like, where do you feel that in your body building? Lots we can do with bands, and we can do more with those. And you might come to standing and release, relax, let things go. Good. Maybe shake it off. Shake a little bit, whatever you need. Good. We're going to come to the wall and do some wall sits, but we're actually, if you like, you can take a block or a ball between your knees and coming with the back against the wall, right? So we'll take the weight in the heels, little squeeze of the ball, and then draw the shoulders back and down. So we're going to find our really strong posture. So the back of the head, lightly pressed back, chin is down. And just fine, is there space behind your neck? Is there space for the lumbar? Is there the lumbar curve? Can you also then not have your ribs popping out, but lightly drawn in? Good. And then the backs of the arms against the wall. And as you hold here, light squeeze on the ball, and we hold our posture, we could take the arms and just explore. Can we lift without popping those lower ribs out and lower? So maybe it's a couple times. You can keep going with that. I'm going to pause because I'm talking. Can we, feel that sense of posture stability as we move the arms and keep the low ribs lightly tucked? If that feels right, you could also go to goalpost shape arms. So this is for those of us with some shoulder stuff, this can be a challenging place for the arms. Yep, still in our chair pose. We could come in and out of it whenever. But just trying that goalpost shape. So I know I can get this left arm against the wall, right arm not so much. But you can just see, what is the difference from right to left. Take a few breaths. Yeah. Good. And enjoy that building sensation, right? So as you start to sense, you could just lightly squeeze your ball, feel that building muscle hugging, right? The muscles hugging on those bones. And when you feel like, okay, there's the edge of that and there's the end of that, you can take the ball out and even come into forward fold, letting your hips remain against the wall, folding over the legs, taking a few breaths, right? Falling into gravity. Yeah, letting gravity take you. As we deepen here, we're going to move into our portion of the class where we lengthen. So we just did strengthen and stability, and now we're going to move into lengthen. So we might pause in that forward fold for maybe 5 to 10 breaths and Really give our hamstrings a nice stretch. Have a little bend in your knees if you have any tenderness in your back, or um, giving a little space for your glute muscles to stretch, or feel lengthening from your sit bones to your heels. And we'll continue to use the wall as we come to lengthen. So we're going to pull the mat right up to the wall and come onto our backs. And just close enough so you can bend the knees and be on our back. So just close enough so you can bring your feet onto the wall and knees bent. Yeah. So from here, we did a lot with hips and hamstrings. So we're going to cross that right ankle over the left. You might, maybe you're just pressing on this knee to give that nice outer hip stretch. Maybe you also could draw this left leg in by reaching behind. But as you do that, we're going to think a little bit about these curves. Have a little space behind your neck. See if we can keep a little bit of lumbar curve right away from the floor. Draw the shoulders back and down. Shoulder blades down your back. And we'll take 3 or 4 breaths. As you continue to, or to just come back to awareness of your breath. You might switch to the other side. It's finding your back body and its connection to the earth. The sacrum grounded on the floor. But you could stay there for those 3 to 5 breaths. Just letting the muscles lengthen. Good. And as we unwind and maybe move a little bit closer to the wall, we'll come into bound angle and wiggle a little bit, bringing bottoms of the feet together. And we can just press the knees out to the side. So feet resting on the wall. Yeah. It's a good chance as you give a little bit of push on the knees to wrap those upper arm bones back towards the floor. And take a few breaths. And when you're ready, stretching your legs up the wall, maybe pausing there just to, again, find that length from sit bone to heel. Arms could rest by your sides. And pause there. Right? Letting the upper leg bones can kind of fall back into and back towards the back of the hip joint, giving some space for the psoas, the deep back muscle, to rest. And resting deeply as we come to just a close of this short kind of introductory class for mindful strength. Part of our intention is to recognize our wise selves and self-care, and also knowing rest as being deeply important. We'll remain in our legs up the wall and kind of give ourselves that rest. I'm just going to read a brief, very short passage from the Radiance Sutras. The Radiance Sutras just are deeply about our connection to our body and the sensations we experience. Wander and wander to the point of exhaustion. Whirl until you lose all control. Dance until you're ready to drop. Then drop. Fall to the earth. Surrender to the swirl of sensations surging through your form. Dissolve in awe as arising energies continue the dance in your inner world, beyond motion and commotion. Become the body of ecstasy. Also from the Radiance Sutras, I have been listening to the love songs of form, longing for formless. What are these energies undulating through our bodies, pulsing us into action? And this matter out of which our forms are made. What are these dancing particles of condensed radiance? So I hope you will consider continuing exploring your strength at whatever point in your physical experience you have right now. Today was focused a lot on the hips, the knees, the ankles, and building connections to release, mobility, stability, and lengthening the muscles. But I'm hoping, I hope that as you move into rest, you discover the even more subtle sensations and let them help guide you to further motion, movement, whatever feels right in your body. So, namaste.